Samsaradava nalalita loka Tranaya karduna guna gunatvam Praptasya kalyana gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyan Manasora Sena Romancha Kampa Sutaranga Vajo Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shingaradhan Mandiramarjanado Yuktasya bhaktam stanyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam Chaturvida Shri Bhagavad Prasada Swadana Triptan Hari Bhaksha Sangran Kritraiva Triptim Bhajata Sadaiva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam Shri Radhika Madhava Yurapara Madhurya Leela Gunarupa Namnam Pratikshanasvadanalolupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam Nikunjayono Ratikeli Sedhai Yayali Bir Yukti Rapekshaniya Tatrati Daksharati Vallabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam साक्षादारित्वेन समस्तशास्त्रे उक्तस्तथा भाव्यतेव सर्वे किन्तु प्रभोय प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् यस्य प्रसाद भगवत्प्रसादो यस्य प्रसाद न गति कुतोऽपि जयं स्तुवांस्तस्य यशा श्रीसाद्यं वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद चैतन्य नित्यानंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Chaitanya Nityananda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Neelamadava, Radha Neelamadava, Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Jai Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Sitaram, Jaya Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Pratikashaya Ashtotasa Srimati Divine Grace Abharchana Vrinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya BBD founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Pratikashaya Ashtotasa Srimati Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai. Nama Acharya Srila Haridasa Ki Jai. Premise Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Dadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Brajabhumi Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Maya Pranavadvip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Shri Ayodhya Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Samavrita Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Harinama Sankirtan Ki Jai. Gaura Premanande Hari. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glory to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Pralada Lada Daine. Pralada Lada Daine. Hiranyakashi Purvachaha. Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimho. Yato Yato Yami Tato Narsimha. Bahir Narsimho Hridayir Narsimho. Narasimha Madhim Sharanam Prakate. Tavakara Kamalavare Nakam Adbhuta Shringa Dalitan Hiranyakashipu Tanubinga Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jayo Jagadisha Hare. Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jayo Narsimhadev, Jayo Narsimhadev, Jayo Narsimhadev, Jayo Narsimhadev. Jayo Prahlad Maharaj, Jayo Prahlad Maharaj, Jayo Prahlad Maharaj, Jayo Prahlad Maharaj. Jayo Jayo Prabhupada, 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 Jayo Jayo Prabhupada. Jayo Jayo Gurudev, 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 Jayo Jayo Gurudev.
Vrindaya Tulasideva Priyaya Keshavasacha Vishnu Bhakti Pade Devi Satyavataya Namo Namaha
Vrindaya Tulsideva Priyaya Keshavasacha Vishnu Bhakti Pade Devi Satyavataya Namo Namaha.
Vrindaya Tulasideva Priyaya Keshavasacha Vishnu Bhakti Pade Devi Satyavataya Namo Namaha
Vrindaya Tulsideva Priyaya Keshavasacha Vishnu Bhakti Pade Devi Satyavataya Namo Namaha.
Vrindaya Tulasideva Priyaya Keshavasacha Vishnu Bhakti Pade Devi Satyavataya Namo Namaha
Vrindaya Tulsideva Priyaya Keshavasacha Vishnu Bhakti Pade Devi Satyavataya Namo Namaha.
Vrinda Devi Tulasi Maharani Ki
Jai. Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Ei Abhilasi Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Ei Abhilasi Je tomar sharan loy tara vancha purna hoy kripa kori koro tare Vrindavanavasi Morae Vilas Vilas Kunje Diovas Nayane Ribo Sada Yugala Ruparasi Ei Nivedana Daro Sakiranu Gata Koro Ei Nivedana Daro Sakiranu Gata Koro Seva Adhikara Diye Koro Nijadasi Dina Krishna Das Koi Namora Hoy Dina Krishna Das Koi Namora Hoy Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadaye Nabasi Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadaye Nabasi Yani Kani Cha Papani Brahmasya Dikani Cha Tani Tani Pranashanti Pradakshina Pade Pade
Pradakshina Pade Pade. Yani Kani Cha Papani Brahmatyadikani Cha Tani Tani Pranashanti Pradakshina Pade Pade. Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi. Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani. Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nittai Gaura Hari Bol. Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nittai Gaura Hari Bol. Vrindaya Tulsi Devaya Priyaya Keshavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Pradadevi Satyavataya Namo Namaha. Vrindaya Tulsi Devaya Priyaya Keshavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Pradadevi Satyavataya Namo Namaha. Vrindaya Tulsi Devaya Priyaya Keshavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Pradadevi Satyavataya Namo Namaha. Vrinda Devi Tulsi Devi Maharani Ki.
Oh, Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow down before you again and again. My desire is to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you has a wish fulfilled. Bestow mercy upon him and make him a resident of Vrindavana. My desire is also grant me residence in the precious groves of Shri Vrindavana Dham. Thus within my vision I shall always behold the beautiful path of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me follower of Kahar Danso's Virja. Please give me the privilege devotional service and make me your own maidservant. This very fallen lowly servant of Krishna prays. May I always swim in the love of Shri Radha and Govinda. Srimati Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting holy names that should be avoided, and they are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider the name of the demigods like Lord Shiva or Brahma to be equal to independent name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature pursuant the Vedic version. 5. For activities and strength of chanting holy name. 8. To consider chanting Hare Krishna one of the auspicious ritualistic activities, offering the Vedas as fruity activities, karma, ganda. 9. To instruct a faithless person about glorious holy name. 10. To not complete faith in the chanting holy names, and to maintain material attachments in understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us, for most humble obeisances on all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just as trees who can fulfill everyone, and they are full of compassion, fallen, conditioned souls. Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Cheto Darpana Marjanam Bhava Mahatavagni Nirvapanam Shriya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavatu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamita Sadhanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra Pita Niyamita Smaranina Kalaha Etadishi Davakripa Bhagavam Mamapi Durudevami Disham Yahajanina Nurakaha Trinatapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtanya Sadaharihi Na Thanam, Na Janam, Na Sundarim, Kavitam Va Jagadisha Kamaye, Mama Jammani Jammanishvare, Bhavata Bhaktir Haituki Tvai, Ayinanda Tanuja Kinkaram, Patitam Mam Vishame Pavam Putha, Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja, Sthita Duri Satesham Vichintaya, Nayanam Garadashuru Daraya, Vatanam Gat Gadarudaya Gira, Pulaka Nichitam Vapu Kada Tava Nama Grahane Bhavishati Yuga Itam Nimishena Chakshusha Pravisha Itam Shunya Itam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahe Name Ashri Shava Padratam Pinnashtumam Kadarshanam Marmhatam Karotuva Yatha Tatha Va Vidathatu Lampato Mat Prananathastus Eva Na Paraha Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Glory to Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes fire of conditional life or repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads a race and benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which all is anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone grants all benediction to human beings. Thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have vested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, our kindness enables us to easily approach you by holy names, but I'm so unfortunate I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name, Lord, in humble state of mind, think yourself lower than the strong tree. One should be more tall than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and shall be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Sanha Mahajananda Krishna, I'm your eternal servitor, yet somehow I fall into the ocean, birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me along the Adam, your lotus feet. Oh my Lord, while my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name, while my voice choke up, on the hair of my body stand on end, the recitation of your holy name. O Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai. Om Jnana Timilandasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshum Litam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurung Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakham Vitam Scha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pachatya Desha Tarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Shri Varshapani Devi Daitaya Kripaptaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Prabhavin Namaha Madhuryorjala Premadya Shrupa Nuga Bhaktita Shri Gaura Karana Shakti Vigrahaya Namostate Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Viruddha Pasiddhanta Harini Namo Gaura Kishwaraya Saksha Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padam Pujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaura Virbhava Bhumistvam Nirdeshta Sajanapriya Vaishnava Sava Bhauma Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhishya Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namaha Panchatattvaatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakham Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Hey Krishna Karna Sindho Dinabandho Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Surato Pangor Mama Manda Matirgati Matsarva Swapadam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyat Vrindaranya Kaupatimadha Shrimad Ranakara Singhasanasto Shrimad Radha Shira Govinda Devo Prishtari Bi Sevimano Smarami Shriman Rasarasarambi Vamsivata Tatastita Karsham Vinusaner Gopir Gopinatha Shri Yesunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Tadha Shivasade Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Guru Pranama prayers ki jai. Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai.
Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadiradya Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Chinta Mani Prakara Satmasu Kalpaviksha Laksha Riteshu Surabhira Vipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Shatasam Brahma Sevimanam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Venum Kvanantam Aravinda Dhanayatasham Parharvatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kantarpakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Anura Chandakara Savanamari Vamsi Ranangadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam Shamam Tripangalavitam Yata Prakasham Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Anganyasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pasyanti Panti Kalayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chimmaya Saduchala Vigrahasya Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achotam Anadi Mananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedeshu Durlapam Madurapam Atma Bhakto Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastu Koti Shatavatsara Sampragamyu Vayurathapi Manaso Munipangavanam Sopyasi Yat Prapada Simya Vichinta Tattve Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopi Asora Chayitum Jagadanta Kotim Yashakti Rasti Jagadanta Jayayadanta Antantarastha Paramanuchayantrastham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yad Bhava Bhavitatiyo Manuchastateva Samprapya Rupa Mahimasanayana Pusha Suktaryame Vigama Patitaistuvanti Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananta Chinmaya Rasa Patipavitapi Stapi Eva Nijarupataya Kalabi Goloka Eva Nivasata Kilatma Bhutto Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churita Bhakti Viluchanena Santa Sadeva Hidayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundara Machintya Gunaswarupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalanya Menatishtan Nanavatarmakaro Bhuvaneshu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramah Pumam Yo Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami.
Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme Godhead. He has an eternal blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he's the prime cause of all causes. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor who is tending the cows, yielding all desire, in abodes built with spiritual gems surrounded by millions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affected by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or Gopis. I worship the primeval Lord, who is adept in playing on his flute with blooming eyes like lotus petals, with head decked with peacock's feather, with the figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids. I worship Govinda. Round his neck is swinging a garland of flowers beautified with the moon locket, whose two hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments, who always revels in pastimes of love, whose graceful threefold bending form of Shamsundar is eternally manifest. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental form is full of bliss, truth, and substantiality, and is thus full of the most dazzling splendor. Each of the limbs of that transcendental figure possesses in himself the full-fledged functions of all the organs, and eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universes, both spiritual and mundane. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by pure unalloyed devotion to the soul, of the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to decay, is without a beginning, whose form is endless, who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha, yet he is a person possessing the beauty of blooming youth. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, only the tip of the toe of whose lotus feet who aspire the transcendental and betake themselves to pranayama by drilling the respiration, or by the jnanis who try to find out the non-differentiated Brahman by the process of elimination of the mundane, extending over thousands of millions of years. He is an undifferentiated entity, as there is no distinction between potency and the possessor thereof in his work of creation of millions of worlds. His potency remains inseparable. All the universes exist in him, and he is present in his fullness in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe at one and the same time. Such is the primeval Lord whom I adore. I adore the same Govinda, the primeval Lord, in whose praise men who are imbued with devotion sing the mantra suktas told by the Vedas by gaining their appropriate beauty, greatness, thrones, conveyances, and ornaments. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, residing in his own realm, Goloka, with Radha, resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency possessed of the 64 artistic activities, in the company of her confidants, Shakis, embodiments of the extensions of her bodily form, permeated and vitalized by his ever blissful spiritual rasa. primeval Lord, Krishna himself, with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts with the eye of love. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who manifested himself personally as Krishna and the different avatars in the world in the forms of Rama, Nrsimha, Vamana, etc., as his subjective portions. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai. Glorification of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmadasya yata nivayat itaratas chartesu avigya swarat tene brahma hirdaya adikavaye muyantiyat sudayaha tejo varimadam yata vinimayo yacha trisargo misha damna swena sada nirasta kuhakam satyam param dhimahi. O my Lord, Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen on fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature, appear factual although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.2 Dharma Pujita Kaitravotra Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam Vastavam Atravastu Shividam Tapo Trayon Mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamani Krite Kimva Purir Ishwaraha Sadyo Hridaya Varudyate Cha Kriti Bhisusubhistakshanat. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.3 Nigama kalpataru galitam phalam sukhamakad amrita dravya samyatam pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam muhur ahoraska bhuvibhavukaha. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraja Ki Jai. Go to Premanandi Haribol, Haribol. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tanamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Bhaskatiristarani Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Vaitgadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavatam, Grantaraj Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Well, today we're going to have a little bit of a different class. We're going to talk about how our kids can be successful, and especially through following the knowledge of the Vedic literatures. and especially Krishna consciousness and Krishna bhakti, or devotional service. It's very important that we learn these things as early as possible in life, so that we don't make too many mistakes out of ignorance. So the beginning of knowledge is when we accept that I am not this body. This is something that almost nobody understands, although they live 50, 80 years, they're always convinced I am this body. So Srila Prabhupada always began the teaching, as does Lord Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita, that teaches that there's a difference between the body and the soul. And persons who have intelligence, they concern themselves with things that are eternal, and they use material things in the service of the Lord. But those material things are temporary. But if they're used in the service of the Lord, they re-manifest their spiritual quality. So therefore it says, na sato vidite bhavo, na bhavo vidite sata, ubayora bidristo natas tvanios tatvadarashabhihi. So this is a very important verse in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. It says, those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. In the purport, Prabhupada says, there is no endurance of the changing body, that the body is changing every moment by the actions and reactions of the different cells is admitted by modern medical science, and thus growth and old age are taking place in the body. But the spirit soul exists permanently, remaining the same despite all changes of the body and the mind. This is the difference between matter and spirit. By nature, the body is ever-changing and the soul is eternal. This conclusion is established by all classes of seers of the truth, both impersonal and personalist. So this is the beginning of knowledge, according to Bhagavad Gita. This in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, this verse appears, and Krishna begins to explain to Arjuna the difference between the body and the soul. So we see that there are transcendental conceptual ideas or knowledge that is the hallmark of spiritual knowledge, as opposed to a lot of different theories and speculations of modern, let's say, philosophy and science. So these universal concepts, like, for example, that an intelligent person will be concerned with what is eternal and will use temporary things in the service of the Lord. Now, that's a very important point, because what is Krishna consciousness about? If we look in the Bhagavad Gita again, in the 4th chapter, it says, second. It says, Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir Brahmagno Brahmanahutam. That what is Krishna consciousness about? It's about manifesting the spiritual nature of everything. And how does that happen? It happens by engaging things in devotional service. As soon as we take something material and offer it to Krishna, it manifests its transcendental quality. So this is in the 4th chapter, 24th verse, where it says, a person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. In the purport, Prabhupada writes that the Lord is spiritual, and the rays of his transcendental body are called Brahmajyoti. His spiritual effulgence, everything that exists is situated in that Brahmajyoti. But when the Jyoti is covered by illusion, or Maya, or sense gratification, it is called material. This material veil can be removed at once by Krishna consciousness. Thus, the offering for the sake of Krishna consciousness, the consuming agent of such an offering or contribution, the process of consumption and the contributor and the result are all combined together, Brahman, or the absolute truth. The absolute truth covered by Maya is called matter. Matter, dovetailed for the cause of the absolute truth, regains its spiritual quality. Krishna consciousness is the process of converting the illusory consciousness into Brahman, or the Supreme. Well, that is an amazing statement. We can transform everything from matter to spirit if we use them in the service of Krishna. And this is a fact because the spiritual energy is called Paraprakriti, the superior energy of the Lord. And the material energy is called Aparaprakriti, or the inferior spiritual energy of the Lord. So matter is also spiritual. Therefore, if we use it, these material things, in the service of Krishna, they manifest their spiritual nature also. So here we see that we can go throughout this whole world transforming things into spiritual reality if we use them in Krishna's service. This is what you would call concepts that are based on transcendental knowledge that convinces a devotee to dedicate their whole life in Krishna consciousness. Now, as students, you're always going to be learning things. And there's so many different subjects that you can learn. But what's important, or more important, is learning what is the supreme absolute truth that is true in all circumstances, in all realms of, in all different places and time. So that eternal absolute truth, called Sat, is the real subject matter for the devotees. And Asat, that which is not eternal, that can also be engaged in the service of the Lord. So, therefore, Prabhupada says in the morning walk, he said that when he was a young boy, he was taught, 1, to see everything in relation to Krishna. 2, use everything in Krishna's service. 3, understand everything is Krishna. And 4, do not waste or misuse anything. This is real education. This is real knowledge, right? Number 1, to see everything in relation to Krishna. So nothing is independent of the Lord. So if we see everything in relationship to Krishna, we become Krishna conscious. And how to do that? Well, that's explained in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna explains in depth how you can see his energies at work in the material nature, and because they're his energies, is non-different than the Lord. So, for example, let's say you have there's a company and you have a CEO. Well, that CEO is managing the whole company with a lot of different employees, and whatever decisions he makes, it trickles down throughout the employees and the different managers, and his let's say his purposes are attained. So when we engage in Krishna's service and understand what he wants, what's he want? He wants us to come back to Godhead. So if we're not convinced about that, then we'll get involved in so many different activities and never really achieve the purpose of life. What is the purpose of life? It's to go back to Godhead, where we came from, to have eternal life, to have a spirit, to reassume our spiritual body. We have a spiritual body even now, but it's covered by the material body. So these superior concepts is what makes Krishna consciousness unique. For example, things that Prabhupada learned when he was a young boy, he practiced his whole life, and look what success he had. It was unbelievable. So there are these overriding concepts that a devotee must learn gradually. Like, for example, life comes from life. This is a tremendous statement. Life does not come from dead matter, right? You can do any experiment you want. You can get all kinds of different matter, put them in all different types of temperatures or situations. It's not going to produce a living being. So life comes from life. It doesn't come from matter. But yet, the scientists, they're all claiming that life comes from matter. And they say that it happened in the past, and we're not able to do it in the present, but it will happen in the future. That this is not science. This is nonsense, right? It happened in the past, but we can't do it now, but it will happen in the future. That's not what science is all about. Science is about observation, and it's about experimentation, and then you come up with a theory, and then you test the theory to see if it's predictable and so forth. And then it becomes science. So Prabhupada explains these overriding concepts if we understand them. Like, for example, life comes from life, and also that one should be more concerned about things eternal than trying to simply enjoy things that are temporary, because you're going to end up with nothing with the temporary things. Eventually they just disappear. But if they're used in Krishna's service, then their spiritual quality is manifest also. So, for example, Prabhupada also talks about how remembrance is proof of eternality. Like, for example, you can remember when you were younger and your body was, let's say, smaller or whatever. And now you've grown and you see that your body has changed. The fact that you can remember that you had a body that was smaller previously is proof of your eternality, because you're remembering something that happened in the past, right? And you're still the same person in the present time, and you'll continue to be the same person in the future time. So therefore, that means that you have that's a proof of immortality of the soul. The soul is the same whether in the body of a baby or a child or an adult, or and therefore that continuity of remembrance proves that the soul is eternal. So these different concepts, overriding concepts, that devotees accept, and because they accept them, their lives become very successful. Like, for example, Prabhupada says, detecting the spirit soul. Now, Prabhupada says, if you inject someone with just 1/100th of a grain of a very venomous poison, he dies immediately. No one can see the poison or how it acts, but it is acting nevertheless. So why don't the scientists see the soul by its action? That's a beautiful statement. So in such cases, we have to see by the effect. The Vedas say that because of the minute particle called the soul, the whole body is working nicely. If I pinch myself, I immediately feel it because I am conscious throughout the whole of my skin. But as soon as the soul is out of my body, which is the case when my body dies, you can take the same skin and cut and chop it, and nobody will protest. Why is this simple thing so hard to understand? Is this not defecting spirit? So we see, he says, let's understand the existence of the soul by the effect of the soul. Just like if you take a poison, it might not have a taste, you might not see it or understand that it's poison, but you understand that you took poison by the effect, because you start choking and you die. So why don't they see the effect of the soul? When the person is alive, they're conscious. As soon as they die, they lose their consciousness. So that consciousness has to be the symptom of the presence of the soul, you see. So, and scientists do this in other researches. Like, for example, no scientist has ever seen an atom, but yet they have done many experiments, and they know things about atoms, even though they've never seen them. They know things about atoms by the effect of the atoms. So here we see they use that method in other ways for other things that they do, research. But when it comes to understanding the soul, they don't accept that method. That you can understand the existence of the soul by its effects, even though you can't see it. No one has ever seen, like you see Neil Bohr's, he talks about atomic structures and things like that, protons and neutrons and all these things. But they've never seen these things. They've only seen the effects of these things, and they're assuming, based on the effects, that such things exist, and they act in certain ways. So we see the problem of the scientists is, because of their refusal to accept the existence of a superior intelligence such as Krishna, they purposely ignore a priori knowledge about the existence of God. Okay, so and Prabhupada also says the illusion of progress. Srila Prabhupada, how long can science cheat people? 100 years, 200 years, they cannot cheat them for long. Srila Prabhupada, Science has been cheating people for only the past 200 or 300 years, not before that. For the last 200 years, they have been preaching that life comes from matter, not for thousands of years. And the cheating will be finished in some other 50 or 100 years. He says that there are symptoms of the existence of God. Without accepting the principle of inconceivable power, no one can understand God. God is not so cheap that any so-called yogi can become God. Such imitation gods are for rascals and fools. Those who are intelligent will test whether or not such a person has inconceivable power. We accept Krishna as God because he has demonstrated his inconceivable power. As a child, Krishna lifted a big hill, Govardhan Hill, and Lord Rama, an incarnation of Krishna, constructed a bridge without pillars by floating stones on water. So one should not accept God cheaply. Nowadays, some rascal comes along and says, I am an incarnation of God. And another rascal accepts him. But Lord Rama and Lord Krishna actually demonstrated their inconceivable power. Sometimes people say that descriptions of their activities are just like stories or myths, but these literatures were composed by Valmiki, Vyasadeva, and other acharyas who are all great and vastly learned sages. Why would these great sages simply waste their time writing mythology? They never said it was mythology. They treated the accounts as actual facts. For instance, in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Vyasadeva tells of a forest fire in Vrindavana. All of Krishna's cowherd boyfriends became disturbed and looked to Krishna for help. He simply swallowed up the whole fire. That is inconceivable mystic power. That is God. But we are tiny samples of God or Krishna. We also possess inconceivable mystic power within our bodies, but only in very minute quantities. So here we say that we have to regularly hear these narratives about Krishna, as we're doing every day, and develop gradually more and more knowledge of the transcendental nature of Krishna and his transcendental qualities. At that point, we're no longer going to be fooled by false knowledge. Now, in college you're going to learn so many different things. But whatever you've learned is not going to sustain you eternally. It's just for temporary maintenance. You get a job, you make some money, you buy food, you have a house, you have a car, you have this, you have that. All those things are temporary. What is not temporary is your relationship with Krishna. And whatever you do for Krishna, that becomes an eternal asset that you can never lose. That is one of the wonders of devotional service. Like, for example, devotional service is accumulative. Whatever you do now in devotional service, and then let's say you stop, in your next life you start from the point where you stopped. You don't begin from zero. That means anything you do for Krishna becomes an eternal asset. This is real knowledge. This is real benefit. Whereas whatever you do materially, like, for example, you can see maybe some paintings you did or some drawings you did when you were 6 years old. And now they're in some drawer, and one day you open the drawer, you look at them and say, oh yeah, I remember doing that. But it's finished. It's not something that you can build upon, right? You've gone beyond that. You've gotten older. Now You no longer make such naive drawings, and so forth. So we see that you have to start all over again, learn more things, develop more expertise, etc. Whereas whatever you do for Krishna, it is never lost. It becomes an eternal asset. So these are things we have to understand. These are highly, let's say, profound concepts of spirituality on which our life in spiritual or our spiritual life depends. Like, for example, also, whenever in Kali Yuga you think of doing something bad, you have to do the bad thing in order to get the reaction. But in Kali Yuga, whenever you think of doing something good, even if you don't do it, you get the positive reaction. That's an asset. That's a special, let's say, accommodation made by Krishna to help us make spiritual progress. So therefore, we should learn to become what's called a well-wisher. Always wish good things for others and for ourselves, and not have any nasty thoughts or nasty plans or vengeance or things like that. So as long as we become a well-wisher, we will always be successful in life, because even if you don't do what you're well-wishing, you get the result. That's the law of nature in Kali Yuga. There are special, what you call dispensations, or special arrangements in Kali Yuga to help us, because this age is very, very negative. If we learn what these special things are and take advantage of them, then we have a much easier and happier life. So we learn these things by coming to class and listening, and little by little all these things sink to the mind, and we suddenly realize, wait a minute, I don't want to be vengeful, I don't want to be mean, I don't want to say things that are hurtful. If I just remain positive all the time. So we begin our spiritual life by, number one, lifestyle accommodation or lifestyle arrangement. Early to bed, early to rise makes a man or woman healthy, wealthy, and wise. So this going to bed early and waking up early is the beginning of a successful spiritual life. These are not, let's say, secrets. They're open secrets, but not everyone is interested. And because of the light bulb and social media and things like that, we can stay up late, sometimes 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and then go to sleep and then wake up, 6, 8, 10 o'clock in the day, and basically ruin the next day because of that wasteful time doing nonsensical things on the computer or whatever. So this discipline of going to bed early and waking up early every day is the number one step for making spiritual progress. When we do that, we're able to organize ourselves and get things done, and spiritually and materially. So, secondly, is understanding the absolute necessity for chanting the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. These are all strategies for success in life. The success in life is meant to make us not only happy and, let's say, prosperous. Prosperous means you don't have any serious anxieties because you don't engage in any sinful activities. So the sinful activities are meat eating, gambling, illicit sex, intoxication. Once you avoid those 4 things, you come very quickly to the mode of goodness. And staying in the mode of goodness, eventually you get elevated to the mode of transcendental goodness, where you're no longer influenced anymore by the modes of material nature. This is science. This is the science of how to live happily in this material world, and at the same time make spiritual progress, and at the same time help many other people make spiritual progress. That is the real purpose of Krishna consciousness, when you become expert in helping others become Krishna conscious. Then you'll see that's more rewarding than anything else, especially if you see a person who was suffering, who had so many problems in life. They came to you, they sort of asked you for help, and you gave them lifestyle adjustment, the holy name of the Lord, Prasadam, Bhagavad Gita, and Kirtan, and so forth. All of a sudden, their problems went away, they became happy, and they became a devotee. That is like giving birth to a child, right? You give birth to a child, it's like a miracle, right? And the same way, you give a spiritual birth to a person who's suffering. That is the greatest benefit, or the greatest, let's say, thing that you can do. But you have to be yourself trained, and that training is regulated life of Krishna consciousness. Now, regulation is the difference between a civilized person and an uncivilized person. When we're regulated to make spiritual progress always, then we become a human being. And people who are unregulated, and you'll see them, they go to parties, they stay up late, they might drink. Like just 3 days ago, one lady called me, she's a disciple, and she was really very concerned. I said, "What happened?" She said, "Well, there was a wedding, and after the wedding, there was supposed to be a wedding party where people go." She said, "But I never go to the wedding parties because sometimes, although these are all Indians and they're all Hindus, they drink liquor and things like that, so I never go. But my husband, my daughter and her husband went, and my grandchildren, they went to and I told them, don't go, but they didn't listen to me. So what happened? They were drinking, and after the party was over, the wife and the husband and their child were driving back home, and then the husband got into a fight with the wife, and he went crazy, and he tried to kill her. And she ran away in the dark, took the keys of the car and ran away, and was hiding, and took her phone also, and called the police, and called this one, and called her father, who came. He was in another car, and the whole thing was a disaster. Now, why? Well, my disciple, she said, look, I never go to these parties because many times, even though they're all Hindus, they're all supposed to be following some types of rules or regulations. They start drinking liquor in these parties. And it ended up into a disaster where the husband of the wife, he ended up in jail, and he's going to have now it's in the penal system, he's going to have a lot of problems trying to get himself out of going to long-term jail. He didn't kill anyone, but he tried to. So here we see why Krishna says no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication. If we follow these rules, we will be happy, will be prosperous in every way and will be intelligent and not make stupid mistakes that will undermine any possibility of being happy or being, let's say, successful in life. Okay, so lifestyle adjustment, regulated life, and then regular hearing of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Then you're going to be able not only to pass all your tests because you're regulated, but you will not be fooled by the false theories that they're going to throw at you in these universities. And then you're not going to be influenced by the bad behavior of other students, oftentimes Hindu kids, not just American kids or other kids, but Hindu kids also, who no longer actually believe in Krishna or God and have become materialistic. So everything depends on who you associate with. That's why you're very fortunate. You have a large group of friends now that are going to University of Washington. How many are going to be there? Okay. Well, that's a good group. Now, what do you think you could do besides passing all your tests and doing well in your academics in the University of Washington? You tell me. What do you think you could do that would be of some, let's say, spiritual importance? Anybody?
I remember Ian organized a mantra house for UW, like the main campus, so like any devotee can join the kirtans and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you participated?
No, I have not.
You heard about it?
Yes, I heard of it.
Are you going to participate?
Yeah.
I hope so. Yes, so that you're talking about ION, right? And yeah, that's a great program. And I'm sure others also have taken part in that. Yeah, that's one very good thing. And it should be done regularly. Now, you see, what's going to happen is ION is going to move forward, right, in his life. He might not be there, in a year or two. So who's going to pick up the baton and carry the fire of Krishna consciousness, you see? You have to always have, a plan. Not just say, well, Ion will be there all the time. No, he's not going to be there all the time, right? So what's the plan? And all of you are not going to be there because you're going to graduate also, and it's going to be a next generation. So we have to keep educating our youth and to have a continuity of preaching work. So preaching work is not only organizing programs, but it's building up relationships with individuals. That's the most important thing. Tell me who your friends are. I can tell you who you are. So if you build up relationships, now you're going to meet so many different people in the school, and maybe a lot of them, some may be Christians, some may be Muslims, some may be atheists, and so forth. The relationships you build up with people are very important. So when they see that you have certain, let's say, characteristics that they are very, very, let's say, laudable or very wonderful, then you begin to influence people. So what are those qualities? Well, this is explained in Bhagavad Gita in the 16th chapter, verse number 1, 2, and 3. And it says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault-finding, compassion for all living entities, freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from envy and from the passion for honor. These transcendental qualities, O son of Bharata, belong to godly persons endowed with divine nature. This is the 16th chapter, 1st to 3rd verse. So, these are the type of qualities that influence other people when they see them manifest. And if we aim for this type of, let's say, what you would call good behavior, you will influence people in a very significant way. And you'll influence many, many people. Because everyone is looking for a genuine person who is honest, who is affectionate, who is self-controlled, who is predictable. Predictable is like this. Someone claims that they're a vegetarian. But later on, you see that they're eating meat. So that's not predictability. Predictability means if someone's a vegetarian, they never touch meat. They never touch untouchable things. So being predictable like that creates what's called faith. Once a person trusts you and has faith that you are not a person who will say something but do something else, then they will listen to what you say. Once they listen to what you say, they can become Krishna conscious. So to build that faith, you have to have these transcendental qualities. And it's not difficult. It's easier to have these transcendental qualities than to not have them. When you don't have them, you get into problems. When you have such qualities and practice them, then life becomes very easy. Why? Because not only Krishna is helping you and supporting you, but other people see these exceptional qualities that you have, and they want to be close to you. They want to get your association. They want to also be like you, right? Not always upset, not always, let's say, late in producing papers or this thing or that thing. So developing good qualities, or as we say in Sanskrit, these transcendental qualities, is something you can do. It's not difficult. It's easier to develop these qualities than not to develop them. So, therefore, it says that especially the idea of forgiveness and the aversion to fault finding. One of the worst things amongst youth is people gossiping about each other. It's not a nice thing. And when you always say good things and think good things and be a well-wisher, then your mind is clear and your consciousness is pure, because you're always thinking of helping others advance. And this is the the purpose of Krishna consciousness. In the material world, you step on someone and push them down so that you can go up. That happens all the time in the business world. Is that right? In the spiritual world, we always try and help everybody advance and make spiritual progress. We don't try and step on them for us to make more progress. We want everyone to be successful. So if you become that type of person, then you will never have problems in this world, because you'll be protected by Krishna's mercy, and everyone will be very, very pleased to be with you and to learn from you. So therefore, building faith, that is, acting in such a way that you're predictable, that you never let people down, that you're honest, you're clean, you have these good qualities, and you're always kind and gentle, never speaking harshly. These are the qualities that will make you successful in being Krishna conscious. So I'll stop right there. Are there any questions or any comments you would like to make? Becoming an exceptional person is not difficult. It's much easier than being a bad person. Believe me, it's much easier. You avoid so many problems in life. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. My question is, how do you have faith in Krishna?
You associate with devotees that have faith in Krishna. If you associate with devotees who have faith in Krishna, you will have faith in Krishna. Okay? If you associate with people who don't have faith in Krishna, you will lose any little faith you might have in Krishna. So avoid bad association. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Prabhu. Go ahead. Give him the microphone.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. See, whatever you told today in class, I believe that it's 100% true, and that makes a person better person. What we are looking in our life is happiness, and that's a mantra for happiness. What you have said. So my age is about 50 years. I'm learning all these things now. So I feel I have wasted my life, even though I was practicing many things of it, but I didn't know that this leads to happiness or success. So these children are very fortunate to know these things at this early age. They are going in this world with this strength, this knowledge. I hope they use it and be successful in their life, and will be happy if they follow this thing. If they don't follow, they will fall into same cycle like we were before joining Krishna consciousness, knowing all these things. We were not happy. We feel we are happy, but we were not, because mind was not at peace at all. So after learning these things, and this is the only thing which will make you happy. There is no other way. I have passed my life, whole life, and means after knowing these things only, I am peace, my mind is in peace, and I have achieved happiness. And one more thing I would like to tell them is that success is not money. Money cannot buy health. Remember that one. Only self-discipline, which Maharaj told just now, will lead you to success. Success means happiness in life. If you have lot of money but no happiness, what is the use of money? So you have to be happy. That's the main thing. And that can be only achieved what Maharaj told in this class today. it's a very deep knowledge, but simple, which I realized after 50 years of age. And you have that information now. So please use that information. I know it's difficult to understand now these things, all these things, how this will yield to happiness or success. This very simple thing is, like, if you are self-disciplined, what Maharaj told, early to the bed and rise early in the morning, that's a beautiful thing. If you follow that one, only one thing in life, okay, you will be focused in your life, you will achieve whatever you want to achieve. Okay? That's all, Maharaj. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Anybody else? Ladies, nothing? Must have some, or add something, or say something.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Haribol.
So I had a question about when you were talking about keeping good thoughts in the mind, because like one of the benefits of Kali Yuga is that when you think good and positive thoughts towards other people, then you get the benefit of doing those positive actions.
Yeah.
So it's easy if we don't, like, for example, if you're like envious or jealous of a person, it's easy to say good things, but to not actually mean it or to think differently. So how can we make the change in our mind rather than in our words?
That's a very good question. I experienced that also. Like, I'll give you a real example. Recently, in the position that I'm in, there's always something I have to worry about, right? Because, we have the cows and the farms and the milk, and then we have the school, and we have festivals, one after another. All these things are causes of anxiety, right? And then there are all types of things that happen. People go on vacation when we need them, and there might not be enough money, this thing, that thing, So how do we deal with all these things? And at the same time, how do we have pure intentions? Because sometimes we want to see somebody fail so that we can get an advantage. But that's not well-wishing. That's the opposite of everything. So recently, there's this one gentleman who's been very kind to me, and he went to another temple, and he was trying to help them, and he was going to make a major contribution to them. And all of a sudden, a big, let's say, disaster happened. Now, the disaster was temple. So, and this completely shocked him, because he was ready to give like close to $1 million to this other temple. And I was thinking to myself, is this good or bad? I mean, because I had an idea that maybe he could help this temple, right? And then after a little while, I thought to myself, look, I'm telling people to be a well-wisher, right? But how can I be honest if I'm not well-wishing others? And because I would like to get a donation of this gentleman, instead of him giving it to this other place, he should give it to us. So, those are the type of situations you get into, right? Now, are we actually going to be well-wisher, or are we going to be well-wisher with certain limitations when we have a personal agenda? No, we have to completely depend on Krishna, not violate the principle of well-wishing. When Prabhupada, he would always end up his letters with, "Your ever well-wisher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada." He meant that. He had no personal agenda other than to help everyone become Krishna conscious. So if we keep on the straight and narrow path of genuine and not being tempted by personal, let's say, agenda or personal advantages, and just depending on Krishna. Now, when we completely depend on Krishna, what happens? Miracles. If we don't completely depend on Krishna, and we depend on our own strategies, you're not going to see these miracles happen. So you have to have faith that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If you do the right thing, then he's going to protect you. And even though you don't know how it's going to happen, how you're going to be able to successfully do things, just having that complete faith and surrender to Krishna, and having pure desires of well-wishing others, you're going to see miracles. I've seen many, many miracles in my life in Krishna consciousness, things that I never thought would happen, and they actually happened. Right? So I'm just sharing this with you. Yes, of course, we have personal agendas, but if we have complete faith in Krishna, we will not let those personal agendas interfere with the purity of well-wishing others. So I beg you, please have this faith, and don't become tempted by personal agendas. Rather, just be completely surrendered to Krishna and depending on Krishna's mercy. Hare Krishna. These are hard questions. Right? These are hard. Every one of us is going to be tested. But if we can pass the tests, then you'll see having full faith in Krishna is the solution to all these problems in life. Right? Okay, so I don't want to keep everyone very late. Anybody else have anything to say? That was a good question. Very good question. Okay, thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hari Bol.
Yesterday's lecture, this book, this Gauranga Darshan Das, he's done very well, Maharaj. Like he has explained all the time and calculation, everything is written in one place. And I thought of giving to you if you want to. You can explain better than us by reading.
Hari Bol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Do the right thing.
I can leave it tomorrow, I will take it. You want it?
You can give it to me later. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. I wish you all tremendous success in your life, not just in your studies, but in your life. Success means that you have a pure heart and you share that purity with others. Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Jai. Hari Bol. So you got a big contingent here. It's like a platoon of devotees. So I hope you. Yeah, that's enough to take over the University of Washington. Spread your love. Spread your love in Krishna consciousness with others. Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Yeah. What?
Donation from all parents who are graduating.
Oh.
This is a donation check.
Okay, thank you. Wow. You see? Things just happen like that. All you have to do is have pure desires. That's the main thing. Just pure desires. Then everything else will work out. Don't worry about what you want. Always be satisfied with what Krishna shows you or reveals to you. Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Hey, it's Prabhu. Hari Bol. Thank you. I pray that you will always be protected by Krishna's mercy. Hare Krishna. Jai. Okay, start kirtan. One of the ladies.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma
Bandhamui Savadhana Mate
Bandhamui Savadhana Mate
Bandhamui Savadhana Mate Jahara Prasade Bhai E Bhava Toriya Jai
Jahara Prasade Bhai E Bhava Toriya Jai
Krishna Prapti Hoy Jaha Hoyte
Krishna Prapti Hoya Hoyte
Krishna Prapti Hoy Jaha Hoyte
Krishna Prapti Hoya
Guru Mu पद्मावाक्या चिते ते कोरिया क्या
Gurumukha Padmavagya Chidete Koriya Agya
अरना कोरी हो माने आशा अरना कोरी हो माने आशा श्री गुरु चराने रति ऐसे उतामा गति जय प्रसाद पूरे सर्वा आशा
जय प्रसाद पूरे सर्व आशा
जय प्रसाद पूरे सर्व आशा
जय प्रसाद पूरे सर्व आशा
चक्षुदान दिल जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से चक्षुदान दिल जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित प्रेम भक्ति जहा होते अविद्या विनाश जते प्रेम भक्ति जहा होते अविद्या विनाश जते वेद गाय जहर चरित वेद गाय जहर चरित श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आधम जनर बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आधम जनर बंधु लोकनाथ लोकेर जीवाना लोकनाथ लोकेर जीवाना हा हा प्रभु करो दया देह मोरे पादाचया हा हा प्रभु करो दया देह मोरे पादाचया ए बेजाश कुशुति भुवाना जय प्रभुपाद पतित पवाना जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा श्रील प्रभुपादा
Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada.
Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine.
Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine.
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine
Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda
Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo.
Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravaja Gishasta Tadasata Shri Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Sri Bhakti Vedanta Goswami Maharaj, Sri Prabhupada, Sanatana Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki, Namacharya Haridas Thakur, Prem Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopina, Sham Kunda Radha Kundi Giri Govardhan Ki, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki, Mayapura Dham Ki, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki, Tulasi Devi Ki, Bhakti Devi Ki, Ganga Maya Ki, Jamun Maya Ki, Samaveda Bhakti Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to His all glories to Samaveda. All glories to Samaveda. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guru. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to His lotus feet and pray on Him. By His grace, one can cross the ocean to suffer to obtain the mercy of Krishna. I only wish to have my conscience purified by the words emanating from His lotus feet. Attachment to His lotus feet is perfection, fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with truth and knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From Him, strife emanates by Him, ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of His character. Our spiritual master is the ocean words of the friend of the poor, Lord and Master of the holy. O Master, reveal unto us, give us the shade of lotus feet. Your fame is spread throughout all the three worlds. We take shelter in lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada Ki